I'm sorry, but when did all Latinos?
You know what? I'm not even gonna let you finish. I'm gonna stop you right there.
You stopped it right there because you didn't like the truth. And you didn't want your followers to see exactly what I had said.
BGP, why is it that every time I see you, you're always in conflict with a black person? What's that about? The house is on fire right now, and instead of addressing the real issue, you took a knife and turned it on the first black person you saw. And yet, you, of all people, want to talk about performative behavior. Your obsession with discussing Latin America when you're not even from there is the definition of performative. The way you constantly run your mouth about issues that don't directly impact you, all while ignoring the real struggles happening right now, is beyond transparent. I knew you were an attention seeker the moment I saw you screaming and arguing with Chief Natural on TikTok Live back in the summer of 2023. You are the epitome of performative activism. You repeatedly speak on Latin American issues despite having no direct ties to the region and no real understanding of the people affected. It's painfully obvious that you're not personally impacted by these deportations. If you were, your actions would reflect that reality. And yet, you have the audacity to call me xenophobic? My father is literally from Mexico. Meanwhile, your only connection to Mexico goes back 6 or 7 generations. That's hardly the same thing. These ICE raids affect the people I know personally in the real world. It doesn't affect you. I'd love for you to provide a single example of me being xenophobic. Instead, you're just throwing accusations around, hoping something sticks. The truth is, you're an opportunist, using people's pain and suffering for likes, clicks, and engagement. The irony of you calling anyone else performative is honestly laughable, and since you want to talk about pseudo, let's break down your rhetoric. For the millionth time, you are not native. Having native ancestry does not automatically make you a Native American. Your logic is not only flawed but also harmful. By your reasoning, countless white people with distant Native ancestry could claim Native identity, some of the very same people actively supporting these ICE raids. Your perspective doesn't just damage the conversation around immigration and indigenous identity, it actively harms the communities you claim to advocate for. Not to mention, every time you pick a fight online and hide behind the label of being Native, you bring unnecessary drama to indigenous people. This has real-world consequences, shaping how Native Americans are perceived and treated. I've pointed this out multiple times now, but you refuse to listen. I see you're still pushing that same pseudo-history about the slave trade, despite the fact that I already corrected you on that misinformation.
I suggest you read the history on Native people at the start of colonization, because there's a lot of people who don't even know that Native people were enslaved here. Native people were trafficked here. Native people were trafficked to the other side of the world, over to Europe, way before, a couple of years before they started bringing Africans here. And when they started genociding us, that's when they went and stole Africans to bring them over here and kidnap them and enslave them. Over here in the Western Hemisphere was the first time they started enacting the kind of chattel slavery that had never been seen before in the world, and that started with indigenous people. You don't believe me? Go read American Holocaust.
It's ironic how you claim to be all about correcting misinformation, yet you refuse to correct yourself. If you were truly invested in helping the community, you wouldn't be wasting time picking unnecessary fights. Oh, and before I go, let me be petty for a moment.
But you know what I do find funny is that a lot of you guys came into my comment section in my live and said, but he's Latino because he's Haitian. And you're right, he is Latino. So my question is this: why did he directly speak to a Mexican person and say half of your people voted for Trump instead of saying half of our people voted for Trump, since he's Latino? Just something to ponder. Have a day.
I distinctly remember calling you a Latina instead of a native, and you were quick to correct me, saying, "Don't call me a Latina." So, which is it? Is this your community or not? Because you can't have it both ways. And for the record, I don't hate myself, nor do I hate my community. But nice try.